that court document that leaked? The day before the Fulton County announcement was made, a document leaked online on the official court website, and it looked really official. It had all these lists of charges on there before the indictment. And then, of course, it got taken down right away. Well, now we know the Fulton County clerk came out and said it was a mistake. It was a fictitious document, except the document was an exact match for the indictment that came down the next day. Joining me now, help us make sense of this and all the other crap going on, is the great Julie Kelly. She's the author of the book, January 6th. You really need to go subscribe to her Substack, keep up to date on all this crap going on. Julie, I'm really torn right now because I love you. At the same time, I cringe every time you're coming on because I know it's going to be horrible with the information. Everything's going to crap and you're going to tell us about it. What's going on right now?
I know. I call myself the Debbie Downer of democracy. Like, people have these fun segments and then I come in and then everyone's like slitting their wrists. Like, okay, the Republic's over. So let's give kudos though to the Fulton County clerk. She did say fictitious. I mean, that is accurate. Fannie Willis's entire 91-page racketeering indictment against Donald Trump and 18 of his associates is completely fictitious. She lists, Jesse, 161 overt acts to bolster her racketeering case. About half of them have to do with Georgia. The other half have to do with things that happen in Pennsylvania or Arizona or other swing states. I mean, she listed a text between former Chief of Staff Mark Meadows to Pennsylvania Republican Congressman Scott Perry asking for the phone number of the Pennsylvania Republican Party chairman, his phone number. That, she says, is an act in furtherance of this racketeering conspiracy. So yes, of course it's fictitious, but that doesn't mean that Fannie Willis hasn't gotten the indictment she wanted. And of course, we'll get the jury that she wants and probably some convictions along the way.
Okay, let's dive into that. Some convictions. Obviously, we can all cry, laugh, scream at the ridiculousness of all this and how unjust it is, but that doesn't change the facts on the ground that Fulton County in Georgia is Moscow 1930, that he's in very serious trouble, even though it's ridiculous. What's he looking at here?
So what she said at her press briefing that you see there briefly is that she plans to try all 19 defendants together, which is sort of a joke, including one of whom is the former president of the United States, that she wants this trial to commence within the next 6 months. Highly unlikely, given all of the accusations in her indictment and so many that are just absurd on their face. So how she's going to pull off this 19-ring circus, I don't know. She also lists 30 unindicted co-conspirators. So she could be bringing additional charges as well. But what I think is interesting about what Fannie Willis did, now she was sworn in January of 2021 after being elected. And the next month, she opened this investigation into Donald Trump. What Fannie Willis just did, though, Jesse, which I find a little amusing, is that she just put special counsel Jack Smith in the corner. He's on his heels now because now his paltry little 4-count indictment against Donald Trump for January 6th on obstruction of an official proceeding looks pretty boring compared to, this blow-by-blow fictitious screenplay account that Fannie Willis just put together. So the question is, what is Jack Smith's next move? I always suspected he would bring superseding indictments, add more defendants, and possibly seditious conspiracy charge. But now it's hard to see these competing egos. Jack Smith is going to let Fannie Willis get the upper hand here. I doubt that he's going to let that happen.
It's funny you bring this up, Julie, because I was just talking to somebody about this morning, and they were saying, well, it's very clear all these people are coordinating. And I said, no, it's much worse than that. They're not coordinating. They're competing with each other. They're trying to out-commie each other, and that's our real danger, isn't it?
It really is. And, Fannie Willis would not answer the question the other day whether she had been speaking with special counsel Jack Smith. There could be a lot of tension there. There were some reports before this indictment was announced that there was some tension between the special counsel's office and Fannie Willis and her determination to move forward with this, 41-count racketeering, perjury, tampering with witnesses, et cetera, indictment that she handed down, because it does put Jack Smith in a corner. And look, this is not an endorsement for what anyone is doing, but you have to sit back and at least a little bit take some pleasure in watching these huge egos, these overly powerful political partisan operatives like Jack Smith, a longtime DOJ fixture, and now Fani Willis auditioning for, some political promotion in the short-term future, and how now what Jack Smith is going to feel pressured to do. What will be interesting is how the media interprets, or certainly Judge Chutkan interprets, a superseding indictment from Jack Smith. Will the media recognize that he's trying to play catch up with Fani Willis? That this is just, out of all the devastation here, just sort of an amusing sideshow as to what's happening with all of these indictments.
Julie, what do we know, if anything, about the judge situation in Atlanta? We know Donald Trump is in serious trouble with his Manhattan judge. It's obviously he's pretty much finished with this communist apparatchik in D.C. And Fulton County, I'm sure, is not wonderful, but what's the situation there?
I don't know. I think that he's a newly appointed judge. He might have even been elected. I'm not exactly sure. Unfortunately, I haven't had a lot of time to look at him because I'm doing a very detailed deep dive into Tanya Chutkan right now. But I can assume, considering he's in a heavily Democrat county like Fulton County, he will be no better than Judge Chutkan or any of the other judges, with the exception of Judge Aileen Cannon, who's handling a classified documents case in Southern Florida. As we've talked, she's got DOJ's number, and she has already made moves to make a signal to DOJ that she is not going to tolerate their bad behavior in that case.
Julie, we'll get back to Jack Smith in a moment. I want your opinion on this, because I was going over everything in my head when I woke up this morning, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, Donald Trump's currently in the lead in the Republican primary. What's going to happen if he wins the primary and then swing states like Pennsylvania, Michigan, Arizona keep him off the ballot? Because that's not some pie in the sky scenario. That's the likely scenario at this point in time. Am I crazy?
No, you're not crazy. And a lot of people, you might be crazy, but not because of that. But a lot of people do ask me if there is a way that they could use these charges, especially federal charges, to keep him off the ballot, which is, again, goes sort of back to why Jack Smith will feel he will want to do it and bring this seditious conspiracy charge because of the provision. Now, this is in the Insurrection Act, but also the belief that seditious conspiracy is tantamount to insurrection, trying to overthrow the government. And now it automatically disqualified Donald Trump from running for office. But look, we see there's no rule of law. There's no boundaries. The judges don't keep any of these political actors, prosecutors, governors, state legislatures in their place. And now you've got five out of the 6 swing states have Democrat governors. And I think in some of those majority Democrat state legislatures. So could they try to pull something like that? Yes, of course. Anything goes now in this lawless political climate that we have.
What a country we have. All right, one more thing about this Jack Smith. I saw yesterday that he was getting his hands all over Trump's Twitter, or X, or whatever it's called now. Trump's social media. He's got access to everything. Why?
Right, everything. Drafts, DMs. Deleted tweets, I believe, are part of this. And Jesse, I have a piece up on my Substack from last week that goes into this sealed hearing, sealed order. And Jesse, this is why DOJ and then Jack Smith conducted the entire classified documents case in Washington, D.C., then moved it to Southern Florida at the last minute, because this Chief Judge, Beryl Howell, is nothing more than a rubber stamp for the Department of Justice. So DOJ forced Twitter. They gave them a subpoena seeking all of the data for Donald Trump's Twitter account. Twitter tried to put up a fight. In addition to the subpoena, they wanted a non-disclosure order, which would have prevented Twitter from telling the former president that who knows what kind of material could be on there. You can't just go randomly get whatever information you want about a former president and his communications. Forever, we've had laws protecting that for this very reason. But here is DOJ, Jack Smith, working hand in hand with Beryl Howell, who not only forced Twitter to produce the data, Beryl Howell imposed a $350,000 fine on Twitter because they blew past the subpoena deadline a few days, even though DOJ, Jack Smith, that office finally got the subpoena to Twitter 2 days before the deadline. This is punishment. It is punitive, not just for Donald Trump, but keep in mind, this happened after Elon Musk took over Twitter. And she basically said, oh, you just bought it for $40 billion. You can afford $350,000 fine. That's the sort of people that we have in Washington, D.C.
Good grief. Julie, thank you. We'll talk to you again, Grim Reaper. I have great news. If you enjoyed that, I have a YouTube channel you can subscribe to. Whatever I do, it'll be right there on YouTube. So go subscribe today.